Hello again everyone, and welcome to another character spotlight. This might be a very quick one because today we are talking about Spring SUZUME, our newest wind character. She is a permanent sub DPS kind of character, and since she is permanent, you might want to skip her in case you want to save for someone else, for example for summer that's coming up in the future, and maybe for even pre-fest that's going to happen during August, during the half anniversary. Besides that, let's go over her skills really quick. Her Union Burst is very simple. It deals a lot of damage to an enemy and some damage to enemies around that main enemy, and also decreases their magical defense and makes them take even more critical damage from critical attacks. It's a very simple skill. Even though the skill is kind of AoE, it does deal damage around an area, you can still bring her against single target situations, so not multi-target bosses, since the main damage in this skill is actually quite high. And of course, together with Spring Kyoka, the previous character, the previous wind character that just came out, the critical damage up on the enemy is going to be very nice because, as we all know, Kyoka does deal a ridiculous amount of damage since she does have such a high critical rate stat, so this will help her very much. Her first skill, it's just a AoE nuke. It deals quite a good amount of damage, and it also reduces the defense, the magical defense from the enemy. It's very simple, nothing too special about this one. It might get buffed in the future, probably with her unique equipment, of course. But besides that, nothing too amazing. It's just a nice ability to have, and it can be very nice against AoE situations, of course, and even in clan battle. In PvP. Of course, she's still good in clan battle, of course, but in PvP, she's also actually quite nice, especially because for skill 2, it reduces the physical attack, critical rate, and critical damage, and magic defense and TP of the enemy team. Of course, it's not everybody, it's just an area around the closest enemy to SUZUME, so it's not everyone. And this will, of course, help your own team survive quite a bit longer, especially in PvP, because they will get their damage reduced by quite a bit, and they will also lose a good amount of TP, making them not burst as soon as they would actually if you didn't have something like this in your own team. Of course, do keep in mind though, this skill is the second skill she will be using if you look at her initial movement, so it might be a little bit too slow in some situations, and the enemy team might still be able to burst quite soon-ish. But in any case, this against bosses is also very nice, especially against physical bosses, of course, since she will reduce the damage from the boss by a lot, and she will also reduce the TP from that one boss by quite a bit, making it so the boss doesn't burst as often, making your team survive much more consistently. And of course, the magic defense reduction is also a nice bonus. It will help your team deal even more damage. And that's basically everything about her skills. They're all very simple and very easy to understand. Besides that, her stats are actually quite nice. She does have a good amount of attack, so she is kind of a sub DPS kind of character because she will be doing a good amount of damage, especially in AoE situations against multi-target bosses. And she also has a good amount of defense, especially magical defense. So against magical bosses, she will be able to survive very well. And of course, against physical, she will also be able to survive, even though she doesn't have as much defense. It's still quite a bit high, a little bit, well, for sub DPS kind of characters anyway. And she, of course, does reduce the physical attack of the physical boss. And looking through her loop pattern is nothing too surprising. It's a very standard one. It's just kind of normal, not too bad either. It's just kind of average, nothing too amazing about it. And that's basically it about SUZUME. She's very simple, actually. She doesn't really have too much going for her. She's simple, but she works quite well. She deals a lot of damage, she reduces a lot of defense, and will help your team survive much longer. Of course, as usual, I tested her against the training boss just to check how much damage she could contribute for the team, and she was able to help the team very well, as you will be able to see on the overall damage dealt. Her only really weaknesses is not having any magical buffs for the team, but of course with the magic defense reduction it will help quite a bit. There's also no kind of TP generation for your team, which usually does skyrocket characters in importance. Usually a character that does increase your TP gain is actually very good, but there's nothing about that in SUZUME over here. But even though without those things, she is actually still very solid, a very solid unit to have. And yeah, that's basically it. I know this was very quick, that's just because there's nothing too much about SUZUME. I do still hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. And again, thank you so much for the memberships. I really appreciate them. And I'll see you guys on the next video.